Everest's deadliest trap isn't a cliff, it's a clock. The second you step into the death zone, every pause has a price. Oxygen thins, lines stall, judgment blurs. Most people think the summit is the finish line, but the mountain only counts who gets down. Guides say the mistakes that end lives aren't dramatic. They're ordinary, a missed turnaround time, an O2 dial set wrong, joining the big push on the wrong day. Danger hides inside words like, just 10 more minutes and I feel fine. So picture this. The forecast tightens, your mask starts to hiss, and your legs go hollow with cold. The summit is an hour away. Your friends are already moving higher, and you've trained a year for this one shot. Do you turn back or gamble everything on a few more steps? In the next minutes, we're ranking the 11 errors guides see again and again. The quiet decisions that don't look deadly until they are. Before we start, hold one name, Doug. Not a superstar, just a determined climber who'd already turned back once. On his second try, the watch said, down, but the ridge whispered, 10 more minutes. That tiny gamble became Everest's most cited warning. Keep him in mind. By the end, you'll see what those minutes cost. Let's start at the bottom of our list with number 11. Sloppy gear discipline. Tiny mistakes turn brutal at 8,000 meters. A loose strap snags a ladder rung. A dropped bottle rockets down a face you still have to descend. A half-zipped pocket bleeds heat you can't spare. Keep the pack tight, quiet, and simple. No flapping slings, no jangling metal, nothing hanging that can catch or vanish. Headlamp batteries ride warm, goggles stay reachable, backup mitts are sealed. The people who come home treat every item like life support, not decor. But neat gear only matters if your oxygen is actually feeding you. Which brings us to number 10, not knowing your O2 kit. Up high, a faint hiss can start a spiral. If you don't know your mask, regulator, and flow settings cold, you won't catch a leak until your legs go empty and your judgment slows. Hours disappear to iced valves, kinked hoses, or a dial bumped in a bottleneck. Fix it before the push. Memorize how normal breathing feels. Practice bottle swaps with thick gloves. And run quick buddy checks whenever the line stalls. If the gauge doesn't match how you feel, don't hope it clears. Solve it now. Oxygen isn't a luxury on Everest. It's your margin. And the next mistake eats that margin even faster. Now number 9, underfueling and dehydration. Thin air blunts appetite and thirst, so people stop sipping and nibbling right when their body needs it most. Pace drops, hands go clumsy, decisions slow. Then the spiral. You move slower, spend longer in the cold, and burn even more energy you didn't replace. Fix it before it starts. Keep a warm bottle inside your jacket so it doesn't freeze. Set a timer to drink every 20 to 30 minutes. Use simple, salty snacks you can eat with a mask lifted for seconds. Gels, gummies, broth at camp. If you can't keep the intake steady, your risk meter is already climbing, and that feeds the next mistake. Number 8, tunnel vision, what climbers call summit brain. You tell yourself the cough is nothing, the wind will ease, the line will thin. Tiny warnings stack up, and you wave them through because the top looks close. Up high, your brain wants easy answers. That's the trap. Build outside brakes, a turnaround time written on your wrist. A rule that 2 red flags mean you descend, no debate. A partner who can call it for you, and you accept it. The summit isn't the test, backing off is. But that wasn't the whole story. The next choices people bet on are even riskier. Moving on to number 7 is over-reliance on rescue and tech. Everest isn't a theme park with guaranteed pickup. Weather grounds helicopters, drones die in the cold. GPS tracks don't fix judgment. People push higher because they think a gadget or a pilot can erase a bad call later. That belief buys time in the wrong direction. Plan like no one is coming. Know the line by headlamp, not just on a screen. If your margin depends on a helicopter window or a battery that hates minus 30 degrees Celsius, you don't have a margin. And there's a quieter trap right beside it. Right behind it at number 6 is ignoring Sherpa and guide calls. The folks who fixed the route, carried your oxygen, and watched this slope for weeks are not suggesting. When they say the wind is wrong or the line is unsafe, that's your best data of the whole season. The mistake isn't arguing, it's hesitating. Every minute spent pleading your case is another minute colder, higher, and slower. Agree on decision rules at base camp, then honor them when it stings. You hired experience for the hardest moment. Let it lead. And what comes next punishes everyone at once. Filling the 5 spot is crowd math. One perfect weather window, hundreds of climbers, and a narrow route near the top. Lines form. People stand still in the death zone, burning oxygen they can't replace. Every extra minute at 8,500 meters drains heat and judgment. Smart teams study the permit list, shift a day earlier or later, and leave Camp 4 when the herd sleeps. If you join the big push by default, you're betting your life on everyone else's pace, which feeds directly into number 4. At number 4 is weather and timing errors. Leave late from Camp 4, and you inherit the coldest hours twice, on the way up and on the way down. Miss the forecast by a few hours, and a breeze becomes a skin-ripping headwind. The fix is simple, not easy. Start when your descent still lands in daylight, not when sunrise looks pretty from the top. If you wouldn't climb in that wind at sea level, don't pretend it's fine at 8,000. But timing isn't the only slow burn killer up there. Moving on to the top 3. At number 3 is poor acclimatization, or pushing while symptomatic. Altitude doesn't negotiate. If a dull headache blooms when you stand, if sleep turns shallow, if steps feel foggy instead of tired, that's your body telling you the ceiling for today arrived early. The classic error is trying to walk it off. Up high, that gamble turns a mild problem into a serious one fast. Smart teams build slow into the plan, climb high, sleep low, add rest days when the pulse stays high in the morning, and never stack big jumps back to back. Hydrate even when you're not thirsty. Eat even when food feels boring. Log how you actually feel, not how you wanted to feel, then obey the log. And if symptoms worsen while moving, the rule is simple. You go down right now, even if the tent you want is up. The extra hour to see if it settles is how people trade small discomfort for big danger. Respect the pace your body gives you, not the pace your schedule demands. That honesty sets up everything that follows. At number 2 is treating the summit like the finish line. The top is a turnaround point, not a rescue. Most tragedies unfold on the way down, when legs are hollow, oxygen is low, and the clock is ugly. People tag the top, celebrate, and bleed 20 quiet minutes to photos, gloves off, and daydreaming. Those minutes come back as darkness in the icefall, empty tanks at the balcony, or a wobble on a ladder when your hands have nothing left. Flip the mindset before you leave Camp 4. Success is a clean descent. On the summit, you have a checklist, not a picnic. Clip in, one quick photo, eat, drink, confirm the next anchor, move. Keep a tiny down kit ready at the top, gel in the chest pocket, warm drink in a thermos, spare batteries close to skin. One chemical warmer for the hands that always go numb. Announce your first descent landmark out loud so your brain points home. Next stop, South Summit. If you reach the top, late, shrink the pause even more. The mountain punishes lingering, not leaving. And that brings us to the mistake. Guides rank above all the rest. We came to our last mistake, the one that takes the most lives on Everest. Number 1 is breaking the turnaround rule. Every serious team sets a hard time to switch from up to down, no matter how close the top looks. That time isn't negotiable. It's baked into your oxygen plan, your daylight, and your strength for the ladders on the way home. Break it once and the math flips against you. Darkness, wind, and thin tanks waiting on the return. Most disasters don't start with a storm. They start with, we're only 20 minutes late. Here's why it ends people. Small delays stack silently. A slow clip at a fixed line. A brief photo stop. A short queue below a rocky step. You move later than planned, which means colder than planned, which means slower than planned. Oxygen runs lower, thinking dulls, and now you're still high when the afternoon wind turns the ridge into a freezer. The summit doesn't save you from any of that. It steals time while you celebrate. A real example lives at the heart of Everest history. On May 10, 1996, guide Rob Hall stayed high with his client Doug Hansen as the agreed cutoff slipped by. The common turnaround that season hovered around early afternoon, roughly 2 p.m., yet they reached the summit deep in the day, around 4 p.m. The clock flipped against them on the way down. Fading oxygen, rising wind, failing light. Hall radioed from the ridge that they were in trouble. Neither he nor Hansen made it back to the South Col. Guides still point to that choice, to push past the line, as the moment the descent became a debt that couldn't be paid. The fix is a pre-commitment, not a feeling. Write the cutoff on your wrist and on your partner's. Agree at base camp that any guide or Sherpa can call the turn, with no debate. When the watch beeps, you do 3 things in order. Eat, take 1 photo, point downhill. If you're almost there, that's the trap working. Almost is how people trade an hour for a night. Treat the watch like the expedition leader. If your ego argues, your feet move anyway. What it feels like in the moment, you can see the top, the sky looks fine, and other headlamps keep going. That's sunk cost, fear of missing out, and thin air optimism teaming up. Guides beat it with rules that don't care about feelings. If you turn at the line, you live to climb a better day. If you cheat it, the mountain keeps the bill for the descent, when you're colder, slower, and alone. That's why this rule sits at number 1. It's the decision that saves you before you know you need saving. Everest doesn't take people with one big blow. It takes them in minutes, lost to sloppy systems, thin intake, bad timing, and a deal broken with the watch. The fixes are simple, not easy. Keep your kit clean, know your oxygen by feel, sip and eat before you fade, dodge the herd, respect the wind, listen to the people who know this ridge, treat the top as halftime, and honor the cutoff you set in the warmth of base camp. In the end, you don't beat this mountain, you bargain with it. Your currency is time, judgment, and the nerve to walk away when the dream is close enough to touch. So, here's the question to carry home. When everything in you says just a little higher, what's the line on your wrist that says down? And will you keep it?